Alright, everything is set up. I've spent years lying about my occupation. I've trained my co-workers to change when the need arises, and I've even gone so far as completely censoring anything even remotely related to my work. Now there is not the faintest possibility of my innocent daughter encountering anything about my inappropriate profession.
Hey Dad, what's an OnlyFans?
A what?
An OnlyFans, and why are there naked pictures of you on it?
Story. Kakushigoto is about the struggles of Kakushigoto, a popular ecchi comedy manga artist, from revealing his occupation to his adorable daughter Hime Goto, so to not have her think badly of him. He goes to extreme lengths to prevent Hime from finding out, from lying about being a salaryman, drilling his co-workers in case Hime finds out his place of work, to even changing into a suit long enough for him to see her off before going into his studio. His willingness to go over the top to prevent his secret from leaking is the source of many comedic moments. But this is not all that this show has to offer. Along with the comedy, there is also their growing wholesome father-daughter bond, as well as a bit of a mystery laid about the beginning and ending of each episode, as we see an adult Hime reflecting on her past in an abandoned but near identical house to her childhood home. The bulk of the show is about the day-to-day life of Kakushigoto and how he balances his work, family, and separation of the two. It can range between hilarious moments of an overly dramatic manga artist trying his best to spare his daughter from learning about his job, to utterly heartwarming moments as a single father trying to raise a child without a mother. And this point comes up often, being a consistent theme of doubt that rises between both Hime and Kakushi, wondering what is the best way to make the other happy without that calming presence. This story can be a great showcase of how large a presence of a parent is when raising a child and how big a void there can be without them. This is both a beautiful story as well as a hilarious one that might strike a little close to home for some people. It really can be a matter of your predetermined perspective when viewing the story. This can be an incredibly heartwarming story about the best days of a father's life being spent with friends and co-workers alike, which can be lighthearted and hold little more than occasional laugh and wholesome connection. But when you view it within the larger context of this all being a reflection of days gone past, especially when we are taken back to the present with a sudden cut back to adult Hime, that we as the audience realize everything is much deeper and meant so much more to the characters than we would be led to believe in the moment, and it is this unique and tearful aspect of the story that pushes it beyond. There will be no spoilers, you just have to watch it as it unfolds for yourself. Characters. Kakushigoto mainly centers around Kakushigoto and Hime Goto, and as such, they are the ones that receive basically all the care and characterization for the show. Kakushigoto, as you already know, is a manga artist, single father, and keeper of a secret. He is the perfect example of overly protective father, always trying to check up on Hime and give her everything he can for her to be happy. Perhaps because of this overprotectiveness as well as his facade of a salaryman that he uses in front of his daughter, Hime is the overly responsible child that tries her best to make good decisions for the benefit of the household, even if she needs to needlessly sacrifice to do so. She is must protect status of cute, her adorable attempts to do her part can be heart-shattering. Additionally, her attempts to prevent herself from thinking too deeply during stressful situations hammers home how much of a void there is in the family without a mother. This can be felt with Kakushi as well, as whenever something comes up that might usually fall into the mother's duty, he tries to go above and beyond to accomplish in the name of Hime. Best dad of the year so far. But these two aren't the only characters in the series, as this show has a surprising amount of side characters that are weaved into the story. The most important would probably be Kakushi's manga team, who fill almost this extended family role as being just as involved with Kakashi's personal affairs as his professional ones. They provide the other half of the entertainment when we're not focusing on the family, as they offer an insight into the day-to-day life of a manga artist assistant, as well as adding fuel to the fire of the wacky habits and reactions to Kakushi's overprotective nature. In fact, the other large part of the show is the daily life of a successful manga artist and what it's like to work in such a field, complete with incompetent editors, stresses of dealing with deadlines, and the reaction to their work by fans and the chief editors. There's also the small antics of Hime's friends and various MILF harem that form around Kakushi, but they are insignificant to the plot and are barely relevant to the story. Really, most of the focus is put onto the Goto family and the manga team, so the various MILF rivalries really don't mean much, because deep down, we all know that Rasuna is the real Music. Let's start things off with the OP Chiisana Hibi by Flumpool. It's this more laid-back J-pop song that kind of reminds me of early 2000s country music, minus the country and add in more soft rock. It's really easy to listen to with smooth vocals, electric guitar, and backing piano. Everything blends so well with each other and brings along this image of growth and good times. It's an OP that I unconsciously just refuse to skip. The ending is Kimi wa Tenneniro, which is actually a song taken by the album A Long Vacation by Eiichi Ootaki, released in 1981. In plain speak, this is a real deal Japanese classic rock song, which is very evident due to the deep, pervasive reverb surrounding basically every instrument. If I were to pin down the sound, it's like the Beatles made a Christmas special. It's big, it's heartfelt, and a bit too much sleigh bells for me to really love it outside of winter, but that's just me. As far as the background tracks are concerned, there really isn't much to discuss. They are pretty average, nothing sticks out to me as being too noticeable except for maybe the very heartfelt piano tracks that come in during scenes of high emotion. They do their job, but they're not really something that you're gonna hunt down the OST for. Animation. The studio behind Kakushigoto is Ajiadu, responsible for such works as Ascendance of a Bookworm and How Not to Summon Demon Lord, so let me be clear that this show doesn't look like them. The style, the lighting, the gag bits, and the backgrounds, they are all above them in my opinion. This show can be extremely pretty to look at times, especially when they are around the ocean or about the city, but that doesn't really mean this show is flawless in its animation. As subjective as character designs can be, sometimes the legs of the characters can look really off proportionally from the rest of the design, and a lot of the characters seem to just not have noses, but also others do have them, which is kind of off-putting, switching from something typical to a Ninja Turtle. Also, there are many times when the characters don't have faces, or we hang onto a scene as the characters talk to avoid mouth flaps during a discussion. But these are all really just small, anally specific nitpicks when it comes to animation of the show. For the most part, everything is going to be fluid with the movements of the characters, as well as them having expressive facial features with gags and the sorts. And sometimes, especially when we get the glimpses of the modern day, that we see some stunning lighting effects. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this is good, but not the best there is, even in terms of comedy. Fun factor. This show wants to be entertaining in two ways. First is the comedy that this constantly tries to throw at you, from absurd situations to gross misunderstandings. Each episode was able to get at least one chuckle out of me, sometimes even full-on belly laughs, but also sometimes the humor missed the point for me, or the characters just didn't sell it for me. For example, the MILFs were really just there in the show for humor purposes, but I never found that gag funny and felt like most didn't really need to be there. The second way Kakushigoto grabs you is the wholesome bonding between father and daughter, and I say that while less prevalent through the show than the humor, it lands so much better than a third of the comedy. I'm a sucker for wholesome stories. This show was able to deliver that same sort of feel goodness with how the two support each other and how they react with life as they live together. Again, because of the fact that this show likes to hit you with a bit of mystery with adult Hime, you're going to be very engaged with the story the whole way through. The only times I felt bored or detached from the story would have been when the humor failed to land or when the characters failed to impress, but that rarely happens, maybe once every few episodes, and most of the times you will laugh and you will have your heart melted. Conclusions. Kakushigoto is a show that I'm surprised hasn't been given as much attention as it should for the spring 2020 season. It's wholesome, it's fun, and it has a very profound themes about family. Averaging all of our scores, we come to a final score of 8.2 out of 10. For alternate recommendations, can I very heavily recommend Smalley and the Forest Spirit? Please, for the love of God, watch it if you enjoyed Kakushigoto. It has all the profound themes of father-daughter relationships and is also criminally underrated. Thanks for watching. I'm Zeosphere and I make weekly anime reviews. What did you think of Kakushigoto? Leave a comment below, like if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more content just like this one. Until next time, stay cultured.